Intimacy of touch with moon in Sagittarius. With the moon in Sagittarius, touch is a paradox. You want to be held, but not confined. You want affection that inspires, not possessiveness. Your body is a wild compass. It seeks physical connection, but also movement, novelty, and meaning. When someone touches you, it has to feel like an invitation to explore, not a leash pulling you inward. For your moon, intimacy thrives in expansiveness, not enclosure. You respond to touch that feels alive. A sudden kiss in the rain, a spontaneous hand on your thigh mid-laughter, a bold brush of fingers as you walk side by side. These gestures awaken your body more than prolonged stillness. You're not indifferent to closeness, but if it feels routine or stagnant, your moon begins to wander. Not out of disloyalty, but because touch, like truth, must feel real, vibrant, and full of possibility. You read intention more than technique. A hand that grabs too tightly or lingers too long can feel like a silent demand, and your instincts recoil. You don't want to be absorbed, you want to be met. You seek a partner who can hold you without holding you back. Someone who understands that touch, for you, is a shared horizon, not a cage. The moment it feels like you're being domesticated, your moon starts looking for the nearest open window. And yet, underneath your restlessness is a deep longing to feel safe enough to stay. To find someone whose touch doesn't tether you, but anchors you in freedom. Who knows that closeness doesn't mean constant nearness, but presence, the kind that trusts your spirit enough to let you roam and still return. Your moon isn't afraid of love, it's afraid of losing your fire within it. You often express affection through movement, dancing together, road trips with hands intertwined over the gear shift, hiking side by side until you collapse in shared silence. Physicality is a form of play, of truth-telling, of storytelling. You're more likely to show your heart through action than stillness, grabbing someone's hand and pulling them into a moment neither of you planned. But receiving touch when you're low, tired, or uncertain, that's harder. You don't always know how to settle into affection. You might joke, change the subject, or distract yourself with motion. Stillness can make you feel seen in ways that are disorienting. What if they notice the part of you that doesn't have it all figured out? What if they see your doubt and stay anyway? To deepen this intimacy, let yourself pause. Let someone hold you when you're not inspiring. Let them touch you when you're still learning, still aching, still unsure of where the next road leads. Say, I don't always know how to receive comfort, but I want to try. That confession isn't limitation, it's liberation. Ask for the kind of touch that suits your rhythm. Say, I feel most connected when we're moving. Or, I need you to hold me like I can still breathe. These aren't restrictions, they're roadmaps. They help your partner love you in your own wild language. And in that spacious, truth-seeking kind of closeness, your Sagittarius moon finds something rare. Touch that feels like trust. Not trust built on permanence, but on presence. Not on control, but on curiosity. When someone touches you with wonder instead of fear, with openness instead of agenda, your spirit calms. Then touch is no longer a tether, it's a shared quest. A reminder that love doesn't have to clip your wings to reach your skin. It just has to meet you where you are and let you fly, even as it holds you. Intimacy of sensate with moon in Sagittarius. The moon in Sagittarius absorbs the world through sensation that expands the spirit. You're not just seeing, hearing, tasting, you're chasing meaning through it all. A voice that sparks a laugh, a scent that reminds you of a foreign place, a rhythm that feels like a heartbeat beneath language. Your senses are travelers, always scanning for what feels true. If the environment feels flat, heavy, or staged, your moon disconnects, not from boredom, but from lack of alignment. You crave sensory experiences that stimulate your mind and awaken your hope. You want to be looked at with interest, not scrutiny. You want to be heard through curiosity, not caution. The tone matters more than the words. The energy behind a gesture must feel enthusiastic, engaged, and alive. If a gaze is too still or a voice too measured, your instincts itch to run. Not because you're afraid of intimacy, but because dullness feels like disconnection. Your sensuality thrives in motion. You come alive when sensory connection is laced with adventure. A lover who whispers between cities, who tastes like discovery, who touches you in laughter. Stillness must be intentional, not forced. Linger too long without depth, and your moon begins to untether. You need the smell of fire, the press of fingertips that ask questions, the look that invites you further. Sensation is not indulgence, it's orientation. It tells you where the emotional truth is. And yet, being fully perceived unsettles you. When someone sees too deeply through your skin, into the parts you haven't reconciled, you may react with charm, deflection, even intellectualism. You want to be known, but on your terms. If someone reads your silence before you name it, it feels like losing your independence. You fear being labeled before you've chosen the meaning of the moment yourself. So you curate how you're sensed. You present as open, bright, exploratory. But there are entire emotional landscapes hidden beneath that horizon. You hide pain inside wit, grief inside stories, uncertainty inside optimism. And you're not faking it, you're surviving. You're keeping the narrative on the road, where things move fast enough to avoid the freeze of being misunderstood. But your body still craves to be witnessed, especially when you don't know what you're feeling. When someone touches you not to solve, but to accompany. When they hear the stutter in your laughter and stay with it. When they sense the heaviness in your eyes and don't pull away. That is sensory intimacy for your moon, the experience of being felt while you're still unfolding. To allow this in, let yourself stay in moments that aren't fully defined. Let someone hear the hesitation in your voice without explaining it away. Let a hand on your shoulder still you, instead of urging the next movement. Say, sometimes I don't know how I feel until I leave, but I want to stay this time. Say I move fast, but I want to be known in the pauses too. And give others that same presence. Don't just scan for inspiration, listen for depth. Let their silence speak. Let their scent settle. Let your senses become sanctuaries, not just maps to your next horizon. Because when you stop rushing to interpret every experience and start letting yourself be in it, your Sagittarius moon finds a new intimacy, one not built on constant expansion, but on presence, where being sensed isn't a trap, but a sacred anchoring, where perception doesn't pin you down, it frees intimacy of kindness with moon in Sagittarius. Kindness, to your Sagittarius moon, is freedom without abandonment. It's not politeness or restraint, it's spaciousness paired with sincerity. You thrive in environments where people are generous, not just with affection, but with belief, where they don't try to correct your enthusiasm or shrink your dreams down to something more manageable. You need the kind of kindness that says, you don't have to be smaller to be loved here. You light up in the presence of encouragement. When someone celebrates your wild ideas instead of grounding them in practicality. When they meet your big feelings with perspective, not pressure. You're drawn to people who can laugh with you when you're spiraling, who don't interpret your fire as recklessness, but as vision in motion. Because your moon doesn't need comfort that quiets, it needs comfort that fuels. But your relationship with kindness is complicated. You're fiercely independent, and sometimes resist the very softness you crave. You may wave off concern, deflect compliments, or meet care with humor. You don't want to seem needy or dramatic. You want to be the one who uplifts, who brings light, not weight. And so you often end up being the encourager, the motivator, the one who keeps spirits high, even when yours are low. You can also mistake criticism disguised as honesty for wisdom, absorbing it quietly while it chips away at your joy. Because deep down you equate intelligence with truth, and sometimes truth has come wrapped in judgment. Over time, your moon may become wary. Will they still be kind when I'm wrong? When I mess up? When I'm not expanding but collapsing? And so you keep a part of yourself just out of reach. You might only share your thoughts when they're fully formed, your plans when they're already in motion. You want to be received in wholeness, not corrected mid-dream. But this can create a barrier, a sense that no one truly knows when you're struggling, because you're always trying to stay inspiring. What your moon truly needs is kindness that doesn't come with conditions or coddling. The kind that meets you where you are, without needing to fix you or flatter you. Someone who can say, you're allowed to be lost, or you don't have to make this profound to be loved. That's what safety looks like for you. Not comfort that dims your light, but the kind that lets your fire flicker without fear. To build this intimacy, try letting someone see you in your in-between states. Say, I don't have a silver lining today, and I want that to be okay. Let your partner encourage you without it being mistaken for expectation. Let them know that when you pull away, It's not because you're over it. It's because you're unsure how to ask for gentle presence without feeling weak. And offer that same kindness to others, not just through optimism, but through non-interference. Let people have their rough moments without rushing to reframe them. Allow the quiet. Honor their spirals. Give them space to find their way back without needing you to light the path. Because when kindness is offered as freedom instead of control, your Sagittarius moon rests. It doesn't lose its sense of direction. It simply no longer has to navigate alone. Kindness becomes not just something you extend, but something you finally allow in. And through it, you learn that love can be both spacious and steady, both wild and safe. Intimacy of growth with moon in Sagittarius. Growth is the heartbeat of your Sagittarius moon. You are emotionally nourished by evolution. Yours, your partner's, the relationship itself. Stagnancy doesn't just bore you. It unnerves you. You need to feel that love is a journey, not a destination. That each conversation, disagreement, or silent night is a new frontier in understanding, not a signal that things have settled. Growth isn't an option for your moon. It's a language of love. You're drawn to people who stretch your worldview, people who challenge your assumptions without belittling them. You want a partner who sees your restlessness not as a flaw, but as a calling. Someone who understands that your need to explore, whether that's physical, intellectual, or emotional, isn't a threat to intimacy, but an expression of it. For you, growth is proof that something is alive. But even in this expansive way of loving, there's fear. Because as much as you crave progress, you also quietly dread the moment when your growth outpaces someone else's, or when theirs leaves you behind. You've left relationships when you felt boxed in, but you've also been haunted by guilt for outgrowing what once nourished you. Your moon is both the seeker and the exile, always moving forward and wondering if anyone will walk the full path beside you. You want the freedom to evolve without having to constantly reassure someone that you're not walking away. And yet, you also need someone who can stay when the fire in you burns everything familiar down. Your growth isn't always graceful. Sometimes it's erratic, impulsive, even overwhelming. You don't want someone to manage it. You want them to honor it. There's also a shadow side to your emotional expansion. You sometimes chase growth to avoid stillness. When things feel hard or uncomfortable, you may convince yourself that it's time to move on, when really it might be time to dig in. Growth isn't always a leap. Sometimes it's a pause, a sitting with, a deepening rather than a departure. But your moon fears stillness because it resembles confinement, and that can feel like emotional death. What you truly need is a partner who understands that growing together doesn't mean growing at the same pace. Someone who doesn't feel threatened when you shift, and who doesn't require you to shrink just so they feel safe. A partner who isn't just excited by your light, but also grounded enough to help you integrate it. To invite this intimacy, start by narrating your growth in real time. Say, I feel like I'm changing, and I don't know what that means yet. Say, I still love this space, but I need to stretch beyond it. These aren't ultimatums, they're trail markers. They let someone walk beside you, even when you're unsure where the path leads, and offer others the same permission. Celebrate their changes. Don't interpret their evolution as distance. Let them grow messy and incomplete the way you do. Ask questions that open, not close. Support that feels like wind, not weight. Because when growth is allowed to be nonlinear, when it's not monitored for safety or capped for comfort, your Sagittarius moon breathes. It finds intimacy not in being met exactly where you are, but in being accompanied as you become. Not in always agreeing, but in choosing to stay curious. That's what makes love feel sacred to you, a journey neither of you have to take alone. Intimacy of activity with moon in Sagittarius. Activity is how your Sagittarius moon experiences belonging. You don't bond through static connection, you bond through movement, shared action, spontaneous adventures, or passionate projects that break routine. Doing something together is not a side note to intimacy. It is intimacy. Whether it's a road trip, a debate over breakfast, or even building a bookshelf side by side, your moon finds closeness through mutual momentum. You thrive in relationships where energy moves outward as well as inward. A partner who can sit still with you is lovely, but a partner who says, "let's go," is holy. You need a lover who's curious, willing to leap into experience, open to the unknown. Activity isn't just a way to pass time, it's a way to confirm that you and this person still share a sense of direction, still believe in the future you're constructing together. Stillness, over time, can make your moon wary. If too many evenings feel the same, if too many weekends pass without novelty or effort, you may begin to question the relationship itself. Not because you're ungrateful, but because stagnancy registers as emotional drift. You read inaction as a quiet goodbye. You need motion, not just for stimulation, but for emotional reassurance. And yet, not all activity is created equal. You can feel deeply alone even in shared motion if the energy feels disconnected or obligatory. You're not interested in checkbox bonding, where someone joins you in action but leaves their spirit at the door. You need presence, vitality, an emotional yes that matches the physical doing. Because for your moon, a shared hike or a late-night errand is never just about the task. It's about how the soul shows up inside it. You often take the lead in initiating activity, organizing plans, setting the pace, bringing energy. But when that initiative isn't reciprocated over time, resentment can grow. You don't want to be the sole source of motion. You want to feel joined, that your fire doesn't just burn alone while others bask in its light, but that it ignites something in them too. Sometimes you hide your vulnerability inside constant doing. You fill the calendar so you don't have to sit with what's aching. You make plans when what you really need is care. You invite others on an adventure when what you crave is someone noticing you're tired of carrying the spark. Underneath your joy and movement is a quiet hope. Please, meet me with the same energy I use to meet the world. To deepen intimacy through activity, let yourself be guided sometimes. Let someone else choose the route, the project, the pace. Surrender your need to make every moment meaningful and let simplicity feed your connection. Say, it matters to me when we do things together, even when they're small. Or, shared movement makes me feel like we're still growing. And offer presence over planning. Instead of chasing novelty, notice how ordinary tasks become intimate when they're met with awareness. A shared grocery run can become a memory if both of you show up for it emotionally. Because when activity becomes less about distraction and more about mutual aliveness, your Sagittarius moon finds what it's truly looking for. Not just excitement, but belonging. Not just motion, but meaning. Intimacy that doesn't require staying still, but does require showing up, with your whole heart in motion, and your partner's heart right there beside it. Intimacy of allowance with moon in Sagittarius. Allowance for your Sagittarius moon is essential, not as indulgence, but as respect. You need to be met with space, with breathing room, with trust that you will return, not because you're chained to anyone, but because your heart chooses to. You don't just need permission to be who you are. You need faith that who you are is not too much, too inconsistent, or too in motion to be loved. You thrive when you're allowed to have phases. Days when you're philosophical and open, and days when you feel lost, chaotic, or blunt to the point of silence. You want a love that doesn't police your optimism or your doubt. A partner who doesn't freeze when your fire dims, who doesn't interpret your need for solitude or space as rejection, but as emotional recalibration. Your moon needs allowance not just to act freely, but to feel fully. What unsettles you most is being emotionally cornered, being told who you are, or worse, what you should feel. You've likely experienced love that came with quiet pressures to conform, to be more consistent, more sensitive, less blunt, more available on someone else's timeline. These demands shrink you, and your moon, built for exploration, equates that shrinkage with emotional suffocation. But even as you long to be accepted without being managed, you sometimes struggle to give yourself that same permission. You criticize your own inconsistencies. You judge yourself for needing distance, for being too much, for not always having the language to explain your inner state. Your free spirit can become a cage when you feel you have to justify it in order to keep love. So instead of owning your fluctuations, you mask them. You keep the mood light when you're heavy. You make a joke when you feel cornered. You speak in metaphors instead of admissions. You don't always trust that someone can sit with the raw, uncertain version of you, the one who doesn't know where she's going next or why her joy disappeared this week. What you're searching for is someone who sees your emotional unpredictability not as volatility, but as vitality. Who can say, take your time, and mean it? Who can love you when you're unclear without needing a timeline for your clarity? You want to be allowed to be in process and still be seen as whole. To nurture this form of intimacy, start by revealing your edges. Say, some days I just need to be away from everything, and it doesn't mean I'm pulling away from you. Say, I change fast, but I'm learning to stay present even as I shift. These aren't disclaimers, they're keys. They let your partner love you with flexibility, not fear. And return the gift. When they're moody, confusing, or slow to connect, resist the urge to fix it or flee. Offer the allowance you crave, space without distance, patience without pressure. Let them move through their own wild weather without needing it to make sense right away. Because when love stops asking you to be clear before it holds you, your Sagittarius moon exhales. You no longer have to earn intimacy with stability. You can be allowed as you are, untethered, uncertain, expansive. And in that allowance, love doesn't just follow your fire, it joins it, flickering freely in rhythm with your intimacy of giving with moon in Sagittarius. Giving for your Sagittarius moon is a spontaneous outpouring of spirit. You don't give cautiously, you give generously, often without hesitation, calculation, or condition. Whether it's your time, your laughter, your belief in someone's wildest dream, or a plane ticket booked on a whim, you offer yourself in expansive, soul-lit gestures. You give because your energy is big, and it wants to be shared. Giving isn't obligation, it's how your love travels. You offer inspiration more than security. You uplift, reframe, ignite. You give by opening the horizon for someone, reminding them of their worth, their vision, their right to want more. Your presence itself is a gift. It says, possibility is still real. And when you love someone, you instinctively want to hand them the whole world, or at least show them a version of it they haven't dared imagine yet. But your generosity can be misunderstood. People may receive your giving without fully realizing what it costs. Because while you seem boundless, you do burn out. Your moon may overextend itself emotionally or energetically, offering and offering, until one day it snaps inward. Not with resentment, but with sudden silence. When giving stops feeling joyful, you quietly retreat. You don't ask for repayment, you just disappear to find your fire again. Sometimes, you give to stay untouchable. When you're the giver, you stay in motion, in charge, protected from the vulnerability of being dependent. Receiving makes you pause, and pausing makes you visible. Giving, meanwhile, lets you keep your role as the generous one, the wise one, the light. But secretly, you long to be seen not just for what you offer, but for what you need. You also give with expectation, though you might not admit it. You don't need a mirror image, but you do want recognition, appreciation. Some sense that your gesture landed, that the meaning behind the surprise, the story, the encouragement was felt. When it isn't, your moon bruises. You begin to question whether what you're giving is being met with depth, or just taken as another bright spark from someone who's always fine. To deepen intimacy, you must learn to give slower. Not smaller, but with more awareness. Instead of handing someone your full flame right away, let them meet your warmth gradually. Say, I give easily, but I want to feel it's being held carefully. Or, sometimes I give to avoid being seen. I'm trying to offer from stillness, too. These invitations shift the dynamic from performing abundance to sharing presence, and allow others to give back, even if their gifts are quieter than yours. Let their steadiness be a gesture. Let their reliability be a form of care. Don't brush it off because it's not wrapped in adventure. Receiving is also a kind of giving, for it offers someone the chance to matter to you, not just be moved by you. Because when your giving comes from mutual inspiration instead of escape, your Sagittarius moon discovers a deeper truth. Love isn't about lighting every fire. It's about tending one flame together, giving not to prove your worth, but to build something with someone who returns your generosity, not in scale, but in soul. Intimacy of receiving with moon in Sagittarius. Receiving for your Sagittarius moon is its own kind of pilgrimage. You are so often the giver of vision, energy, expansion, that to stand still and let something arrive at your feet can feel foreign, even disorienting. You're more comfortable offering support than asking for it, more used to leading the conversation than being the subject of someone else's attention. You want to be chosen, adored, cherished. But when love finally shows up unprompted, you don't always know where to place it. You equate movement with safety. Giving keeps you in motion, out ahead of your vulnerability. But receiving requires stillness. It asks you to stop sprinting toward the next idea or experience and let something enter your world without you chasing it. That pause can trigger restlessness, or worse, exposure. Because when you receive, you're no longer the storyteller or the uplifter. You're the receiver, seen, felt, and no longer in control of what happens next. Sometimes you interpret care as interference. When someone tries to slow you down, nourish you, or ask what you need, it can feel like they're questioning your independence. You may brush off their concern, redirect the focus, or minimize your needs. Not because you're above receiving, but because your moon was built on self-reliance and self-inspiration. And needing others? That tugs at your deeply guarded pride. But underneath the deflection is a tender longing. You want someone to notice the parts of you that aren't lit up, the days you can't expand, the nights when your optimism thins and you're tired of being the one who always sees the bright side. You want to be held in those moments, not fixed, not cheered up, just held. Because when someone gives without demanding a performance in return, your soul exhales. There's a hidden belief in your moon that you must earn love by being easy to love, by being fun, inspiring, undemanding. Receiving disrupts that belief. It asks you to consider that your worth doesn't live in your spark, but in your being. That someone might want to give to you, not because you're impressive, but because you are theirs, even when you're messy, heavy, or lost. To soften into this form of intimacy, start by receiving in low-stakes moments. Accept help without returning it. Say thank you without apology. Let affection land without having to make it into a shared joke or learning moment. Let yourself be fed, supported, kissed first. Then let the awkwardness pass and notice what's still standing: love. Speak your discomfort. Say, it's hard for me to accept care. I'm used to being the one who gives it. Say, I'm learning how to stay still when someone wants to love me. These truths invite the other person to approach gently and help you stay open when your instinct is to run. Because when you stop trying to be the one who always lights the torch and allow someone to light it for you, your Sagittarius moon receives the rarest kind of intimacy, not the thrill of giving, but the grace of being worthy, even in stillness, even in silence, even with your fire dimmed. And in that moment, love doesn't just inspire you, it teaches you how to rest inside it.